And so,
What is that?
it's, it's stuff in the air. It's
In the air?
It's like the musk scent.
It needs to stay in the air, not be in here.
It's a
Not
scent.
in your home.
It's a scent of some sort. This is the second day in a row we've done a Valentine's Day.
Yeah, that's enough Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we're a little bit old for Valentine's Day. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Thunder loses, the Chiefs want a decision out of Travis Kelce, and Jay Billis previews tomorrow's 1 versus 2 matchup in college basketball. But we begin today with the Four Nations face-off. Last night, the United States pounced on Finland 6-1, setting up a game tomorrow night against Canada, which won their first game over Sweden. This game will be played in Montreal. Brady Tkachuk, who scored twice last night for the U.S., said, and I'm quoting here, "I think it's going to be the biggest game I've ever played in my career," unquote. Wow. Wilbon, does this feel bigger, smaller, or similar to a Game 7 to you?
Smaller to me. And I've been to a lot of Game 7s in the NHL, in the Stanley Cup playoff, a lot. And particularly, in the aughts and the teens, actually, with the Blackhawks playing some Game 7s, winning and losing. And no, it doesn't feel like that to me, but let me go to this. I watched that game last night, and I understand the Tkachuk brothers are fueling, with good reason,
multiple goals,
the emotion and the effort that goes into the United States winning a game against a team with a different sweater on, and particularly Canada, which is where we're going.
Yeah.
I get it, and I'm trying to sort of sense it and get it through the television screen. And by the way, Canada's sweaters are spectacular.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I'm going to watch that too. I'm going to get into it. But wow, Stanley Cup final? I don't equate those two things, do you? You watched the first period last night.
Game 7, not the Stanley Cup final. Just said Game 7.
Okay, but Game 7 could be later in the tournament.
Yeah. Okay. So as I sit here right now, to me, it feels smaller than a Game 7 because this is a brand new thing because I don't know anything about it. It's not the Olympics. It's not the NHL playoffs. No. It's an invention to get rid of a sagging All-Star game.
Yeah.
That's at the moment, that's all it is.
Smart decision.
I appreciate what Brady Tkachuk is saying, but to be fair, he's never even played in an NHL playoff game to this point. Unlike his brother who won a Game 7 to win the Stanley Cup, so maybe we ought to ask him. What do my notes say? Look, I think this is a very good idea. I don't know how much stature to attach to it yet because, again, you're not getting a gold medal. You're not getting the Stanley Cup.
You have to do it year after year.
It's an exhibition. We don't even know if it's on next year.
They might play again next week.
So what I'm saying
Thursday night
is it seems, in watching it, it seems like the hockey players are embracing this a lot more than the NBA players are embracing the silly Emirates Cup, which is nonsense.
No, they are embracing the Emirates Cup. We don't, but they do.
We don't. But you've got to tell me before I commit to it.
Right.
I got to see it for a while, right?
Game 7s. Come on now.
Yeah.
We've been to some Game 7s.
By the way, do you know Sidney Crosby's record as a captain of Team Canada?
No.
Which he is right now?
What is it?
22-0. You want to go against 22-0 in Montreal? You want to take a shot at that?
No, you don't. But that game I don't think would be in Montreal. I think that game.
Well, this next game is
the next
Montreal.
one is. But if they play again,
let's just talk. Then he might
Boston,
be 23-0.
Then Crosby's on the line.
I understand, but he's 22-0.
He's so great. I root against him, as you know.
I know why. I never understood it.
You want to root against chumps or you want to root against royalty? Which one?
It's my lead. I don't know. I don't want to root against him. I think he's good. Let's move to the NBA and Minnesota beating Oklahoma City last night, 116-101 in Minneapolis. This snapped Oklahoma City's 7-game win streak. And the Timberwolves played without 3 starters, Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley Jr., and Julius Randle. Wilbon, you have Oklahoma City winning the whole thing.
Getting to the final.
Is this loss a big deal, a little deal, or no deal?
No deal. No deal, and here's why. It had nothing to do with Oklahoma City, who is the best team in the league right now by record, who I think will get to the NBA final, but it's going to be difficult. But let me say this. Here's why it's no deal. Because Minnesota has spent an entire season trying to figure out who it is after dealing Karl Anthony Towns to New York for Julius Randle. Mm-hmm. Randle's been in and out of the lineup some. Rudy Gobert wasn't in the lineup last night. Ant-Man has played fabulously, mostly. But they win 3 in a row or 4 in a row and then win 4 out of 6 and then lose 3 in a row. And you go, come on, Timberwolves, show me who you are. So this was predictable last night. I watched that game, and I thought the Timberwolves were going to win that game. They won it convincingly. They needed to win it. Tony, we're talking about 30 games or fewer left in the NBA season right now. No. It's go time, but I don't think it meant anything to Oklahoma City as they just try to get away and get to the All-Star break. I don't think it meant anything to OKC.
Your answer surprises me very much.
Really?
And it surprises me because the other night, when Dallas beat Golden State.
Great game.
You were texting me in the middle of the night.
Yes.
I woke up to find all these texts. You said how important it was. They were jockeying for position. Right. So I would have thought you would have been a little bit more supportive of this being an important game last night. I tend to believe that there's no game in the NBA that means anything until after the All-Star break.
You got nothing until next week.
I know, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
But let me take the other side of this just for a second. Because Oklahoma City has played 54 games this year. They have never, in a regular season game this year, lost by as many as 15 points than they did last night. To a team without 3 starters. Yeah. And if you are looking for symbolism, Anthony Edwards' dunk over your boy in the middle, Holmgren, you would have symbolism in that thing.
Yeah.
So you're surprising me. Like, I listen to you about the NBA. I listen to you and Windhorst. And both of you say all the time Oklahoma City's the best team. Yeah. Maybe if you lose this game to a team that last year got to the conference finals, maybe this is more meaningful than I think or you think.
Maybe. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to concede this to you. The game was important to Minnesota. Okay. I just didn't think the game was important to OKC. No. They had nothing to prove. Now, here's where you could be right. Those two could face each other. They could face each other in a series, and Minnesota could say, we got this far last year. We got to the Western Conference Finals, and you guys didn't.
So I don't know.
But right now, I'm going into this thinking, I'm giving a pass to OKC. I am. I'm going to check with Windhorst.
You surprised me because you think that NBA games are important most of the time.
I think this was important to Minnesota. Earlier this week, moving to the NFL, Travis Kelce said he hadn't decided whether to play next season, saying he is, quote, kicking every can that I can down the road, close quote. Well, The Athletic reports the Chiefs now want a decision from Mr. Kelce by mid-March. The 35-year-old tight end said on his New Heights podcast, quote, I think I can play. It's just whether or not I'm motivated or it's the best decision for me, close quote. Tony, is it fair for the Chiefs to set a 30-day deadline on one of the great players in the franchise's history?
Is it fair to put a deadline on a player? In the abstract, it is fair. A team has a right to know if somebody is coming back or not coming back. What mitigates it in this particular case is this guy is a pillar on this team, one of the greatest players they've ever had. So you just can't, he's not a second-year outside linebacker. So that changes the dynamic of it. Today is February 14th. My understanding is the deadline is March 14th. That's 4 full weeks away. I will say that I concede that it's fair, but it feels like, what have you done for me lately? And what Kelce has done for them lately ain't that much. He had the worst year of his career in terms of catches and touchdowns. In his last 2 playoff games, this is the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, big games. If you combine his production, you put both together, that's still less productivity than he had in the last 23 singular playoff games. So my sense is that this is conceivably an issue, and you would just hope they'd be on the same page. I'm not sure they are. I'd give him all the time he wants, Mike.
Tony, I don't know about fair or not. I think it's reasonable in that if Kelce's going to retire, and even if he's going to come back, Kansas City has to make some plans. And by the way, tight end replacing him or that position is not the number one objective in the offseason. Fixing that offensive line isn't particularly.
And if his money comes up, you can fix it.
That's right. So you need to plan what you're going to do, your draft strategy, your free agent strategy. All of it is dependent on whether you have, as we both know, one of the most important players in the team's history.
Absolutely.
This is 15's guy. But you gotta, you don't want to, you want to say this quietly to him, and maybe they should have said it publicly. But I think it's reasonable to ask him that.
I made a mistake. It's yards and touchdowns that he had the fewest of his career. Look, I think he should get all the time that he needs to do this. I don't want it to seem like he's being forced out, like Cooper Kupp is being forced out.
Yeah.
And another thing, too,
football's so ruthless.
If you're Kansas City's management, I don't think you want Taylor Swift writing a song that's angry about you if he's got to go. Let's take a break. Coming up, number 1, Auburn meets number 2, Alabama tomorrow. We will ask Jay Billis to break it down.
We'll also ask him whether UConn is still in the running for a 3rd straight, like the Chiefs. 3rd straight.
He's too big to Top-ranked Auburn visits second-ranked Alabama tomorrow, which is where we find basketball. We find our dashing friend, ESPN college basketball analyst Jay Billis. Let's start with this. Let's start with Auburn and Alabama. That's a huge football matchup. We're all used to that. How do these two teams match up on a basketball court?
They match up really favorably. They're two of the best teams in the country. They're a little bit different in ways that Auburn has an on-demand interior scorer in Janai Broome, who, along with Cooper Flagg of Duke, is the leading candidate for National Player of the Year. He leads Auburn in scoring, rebounding, assists, block shots. He's been outstanding. And whenever Auburn needs a basket or needs to stop a run, they can throw it to Broome, and he can go score, get fouled, or both. But Alabama's a little bit of a different animal. People think of them as a three-point shooting team, and they are. They make 10 threes a game, and they're shooting a really high percentage in SEC play. But really what Alabama does is they're a slot driving team that gets the ball in the paint. They attack the paint, and from that, they're able to kick it out and then pass it again and get a lot of open threes. The issue for Alabama against Auburn is going to be two things. It's going to be turnovers and offensive rebounding. If Alabama can limit their turnovers to 10 or less and less than 5 live ball turnovers, they're going to have a great chance to win. And if they can keep Auburn off the offensive glass and limit them to 10 or fewer offensive rebounds, that puts Alabama in a great position to win because they can really score. They like to shoot at the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. And the quicker you shoot it, the less opportunity you have to turn it over.
Jay, you've been telling us since November about the SEC, the basketball prowess that conference is now demonstrating. 4 of the 5 top-ranked teams are from the SEC, 9 of the top 25, and now here I go. As a child of the Midwest and Chicago and the Big Ten, I'm saying, hold on, I am not buying this yet. Jay, is there a trap door that somebody can fall into? Is there something coming in March that could derail this, or am I just flat out going to be wrong?
Well, it depends how you value the best conference. Like the best top to bottom, the SEC is the best conference there's ever been in college basketball because of the number of quality teams it has. The last time a conference was this powerful, it was in the mid-1980s in the Atlantic Coast Conference. But the ACC was 8 teams back then. This is a 16-team league. It's a lot easier to have 8 good teams than it is to have 16. Now, that doesn't mean that the SEC is going to have all 8 Elite 8 teams and all 4 Final Four teams in the national champion. It doesn't mean that Duke's not going to win the title or Houston's not going to win it or Iowa State. Those are two different things. And I kind of liken it to the best golfer. Like, just because you win the World Match Play Championship doesn't make you the best golfer in the world. Those are two different things. But I think people value the tournament so much that if the SEC doesn't do really well in the NCAA tournament, people are going to say, they weren't the best conference. Those are two different things. But I think the SEC has more teams capable of winning the title, specifically Auburn, Florida, Alabama, than any other, and Tennessee, too, than any other conference. Nobody has this kind of depth and power 1 through 16. It's not even close.
Wow. It's going to be amazing to watch this the whole
Neither
winter.
you nor I ever believed it would happen.
I know.
That's right.
Jay's been on top of this, so he started telling us this in November. The top 2 teams in the Big 12 play tomorrow. How do you see 6th-ranked Houston, speaking of Houston, what you just did, and 13th-ranked Arizona?
Arizona is really good, obviously. Caleb Love is an outstanding guard that has been playing some of his best basketball of late. And after a slow start, Arizona's really picked it up. They're defending better. They're very good on the glass. Tobe Awaka is one of the best offensive rebounders in the country. But anytime you play against Houston, home or away, you have to deal with their pressure. Houston is relentless on the glass. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They lead the nation every year in playing hard. They just play harder than their opponents for longer stretches. but they are so good defensively. They will trap ball screens. They call it monster. They'll trap the post to get it out of there, and they force a lot of turnovers. So they're really difficult to play against. It's going to take a 40-minute concerted effort on the part of Arizona to win this game. I mean, I think Houston's truly, and they're shooting it better than they have in past years. It's always been kind of, or not always, but it's mostly been like, hey, man, they're great defensively. They're great on the glass, getting second shots, but they don't shoot it great. This year, they shoot it really well, and that's going to make them doubly hard to beat.
We will get you out of here on this. UConn is outside the top 25 now. Coach Dan Hurley, who you know very well, know his brother, know the whole family, said the other day, and I'm quoting here, "No one gets crowned in February," unquote. Do you think that a third straight title for UConn is actually still in play?
It's in play. I wouldn't say it's a probable thing that's going to happen. One thing about UConn, their offense is elite. They're one of the best offensive teams in the country. The issue has been their defense. They have not been great defensively, although in the last couple of weeks, they're starting to trend up. If in the last month of the season, they can play defense at a top 25 level, and right now it's more, I mean, it's trending toward that, but it's more in the top 80. They can make another run at this, but they're not a favorite. They've been a favorite the last 2 years. And they're more of an, I hate to say this, but they're more of an underdog type team this year. They're a second weekend team, and if you can get to the second weekend, certainly you can get beyond that. But there are other teams you would favor over UConn. They're still really good, though. And the idea that we'd be even talking about the chance for a three-peat, I never thought I'd be saying this in today's game. It's really remarkable.
Well, the idea that we would have you on from Alabama with Alabama and Auburn in basketball is remarkable. Thank you for being with us, Jay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, are Tyreek Hill and Noah Lyles really going to race? They're going to race?
And Juju Watkins put on a performance last night that her coach called otherworldly. Beat undefeated previously UCLA.
Not an upset, according to you. No.